Welcome back, everybody. Today is, what is it, Thursday, October 29th. We are now 5 days away from the elections taking place on November the 3rd. This is it. Okay, this is the last little bit here. There are only 5 days remaining. Basically, whatever the results are, as I've said a couple times now over the course of this week, that essentially, in my opinion, whatever you are going to see on this map, unless something really strange happens, is pretty much what you're going to see on Tuesday morning. Now, obviously, some of these states are closer than others. And so some of them that are on a real knife's edge, a little bit of polling here and there kind of can push it over the edge. But in states that have been consistent in their characterizations throughout, it's going to be that way, okay? So we're going to do something a little different in this video, okay? There are 5 days left, and instead of going west to east, what we're going to do is narrow this thing down from safe all the way to tilt, okay? So let's label the safe Democratic states first, because they're the favorites here. We have California, Oregon, and Washington. Let's not forget Hawaii and its 4 electoral votes. New Mexico will be a safe state for the Democrats, as will Colorado. Let's come over here to this part of the country. Not a whole lot of safe stuff in this whole portion of the country, but D.C., Maryland, whoops, that's going to be safe, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts will all be safe, as will 29 votes in New York and 3 in Vermont, as well as 3 out of the 4 in Maine, okay? So there are, and then Illinois, can't forget about 20 votes in Illinois. So there are your safe Democratic states. Let's get into the lean Democratic states, or likely, I should say. We're going to go with Nevada as a likely Democratic state. Wisconsin, another state I have going likely Democrat. Michigan, another state that we have going likely Democrat. Now let's talk about why. We're not going to mention the safe states right now. We know how those states are going to vote. But let's talk about the likely states. Okay, first of all, in Nevada, polling has interestingly enough shown over time that this state can overstate the Republican Party's presence here. Okay, we've seen time and again how Republicans can lead even in this state repeatedly, usually within the margin of error, but they do lead. And then the Democrats usually, not always in the case of Dean Heller, but usually win. And so that, we have a lot of literature over the years to support the claim that Republicans are often very overstated in this state. And so this time around, the Democrats are actually the ones leading in the state of Nevada, kind of cementing this for them, because I don't think that part of the polling mechanism has really changed between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. The only thing threatening the Democratic Party's chances in Nevada is suppressed turnout because of the pandemic. And in a state where there are only 6 electoral votes, you kind of need turnout if you're really either party, especially the Democrat. Again, the Democratic Party relies on turnout a little bit more than the Republican Party does. And so should turnout be lower in this state, that could hurt the Democratic Party's chances. But again, the amount of turnout that we have seen to this point, over 70 million votes have already been cast. We shouldn't really expect this to narrow up at all. Wisconsin, another state that I think we need to discuss as a likely Democratic state. The reason being, this state has just run away from the Republicans in the last 4 years. There have been 4 different races in this state that have gone the Democratic Party's way since Donald Trump carried it and its 10 electoral votes in 2016. There was a state Senate special election in the first year of Trump's term that he won. In the midterms, Tammy Baldwin, a very progressive senator, won her reelection. And then Tony Evers was able to unseat Governor Scott Walker here in this state. And then earlier this year, a Supreme Court race was won by the Democrats, despite turnout being very low, being reduced from 180 polling sites in the city of Milwaukee alone, all the way down to just 5. Okay, so if the Democrats are having that kind of success in spite of those circumstances, they should be just fine. Now, in the state of Michigan, the Republican Party, they've waved the white flag here, folks. They just have. John James is not going to defeat Gary Peters. I think for a while we really believed there was a chance that he could do that, but that's not going to happen now. Gary Peters is in the driver's seat to retain his Senate seat. It will be competitive. It will be fairly close, but I expect him to win. Just like Wisconsin, there were 2 statewide races here in 2018 in the midterms that the Democrats captured both of them. They won. Debbie Stabenow was able to defeat, guess who? John James, so they won that Senate race. And then the governor's race, they also flipped from red to blue when Gretchen Whitmer defeated Bill Schuette. It was an open seat, but still a good win for the Democrats there. Polling has been very, very solid for the Democrats here. A post-ABC poll released just either yesterday or the day before had Biden leading by 7% here. That's a good margin for only 5 days remaining, especially from a very highly regarded pollster. So that's why I also have this state as a likely for the Democrats. Okay, another state I think I forgot to mention here as a safe state. It's always hard to get the full map. Is going to be the state of Virginia, and it's 13 electoral votes. Now let's switch gears and label the safe states for the Republicans. We're going to label Utah. We're going to label Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, the Dakotas. Whoops. There we go. Correct this. There you go. Nebraska is going to be safe. Kansas will be safe. Oklahoma will be safe. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. Okay? So there are your safe Republican states. So obviously the Democrats, with these 3 likely states in tow, are far closer. So let's put in some likely Republican states. Well, there aren't that many of them. Okay, we got Indiana, and it's 11 electoral votes, and we got Mississippi, and it's 6 electoral votes, along with Alabama, and it's 9 electoral votes. Okay, so that only brings the Republicans and Donald Trump up to 114. And you can see already on this map another 10 votes. See, this is sort of new to doing it this way. There's another 10 votes in Minnesota that I have characterized as safe now for Joe Biden and the Democrats. You may be asking, why didn't I characterize New Hampshire? Well, it's because we did get some polling today that showed like a long series of polls, like 10 to 12 consecutive polls that showed a consistent narrowing in this race. So that might be interesting to watch, but I think that's only going to be able to push this thing down to a lean. So I'm just going to label it lean for now, but we'll get back to it in a little while. Okay, so another likely state for Donald Trump will be the state of Alaska as well. All right, so let's start with these remaining states, which are really the swing states in this election. Okay, we're going to label South Carolina. It's officially in this column, but I'm still going to label it light lean. Let's start with it there because I think Jamie Harrison's ability to fundraise has really boosted everything that we're seeing in that state and actually giving Donald Trump some reason to have to spend just a fractional amount of money there. Not a whole lot, but I think he does need to spend a little bit. It's enough to have them concerned, is all I'll say. In the state of Arizona, the Democrats have done very well here since 2016. Even in 2016, they did pretty well when when Hillary Clinton lost, but only with a plurality loss to Donald Trump. Donald Trump carried about 48% of the vote to Hillary's 45%. So that's definitely a notable and compelling piece to this whole puzzle. And I would imagine that going forward, the Democrats have themselves an opportunity to essentially I don't want to say put this in the bag as a potential realignment state, but kind of, I would say, have this in their column going forward. And they can sort of point to this state a little bit and say, you know what? Okay, we may have some problems in the northern portion of the country. Maybe those Rust Belt states, we're seeing some data that potentially trends away from us, but Arizona is trending towards us. And meanwhile, that state is where some of these people from the northern part of the country are moving to. So it's not like you're actually losing any voters. In fact, you may actually be gaining votes in the Electoral College because voters may be leaving Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, reducing the population in that state, and in turn the electoral votes, and bringing those down into Georgia and Arizona and South Carolina and New Mexico, etc. So the Senate race here, Mark Kelly has been doing exceptionally well against Martha McSally. I know I mentioned yesterday that we had another narrowing in the polls. I'm not too concerned about that for Mark Kelly's sake. He is in the driver's seat. Martha McSally is in all likelihood going to lose that seat. I would be very surprised at this point if that is not how that race unfolded. It has been the Democrats' seat to lose pretty much throughout this whole election season. They have, kind of pointed to this seat for a little while because I think what they had in mind was a potential flip of the script from what happened in 2018 when they were able to get the other Senate seat. Remember, Martha McSally again lost. in 2018 to Kyrsten Sinema. And I think the Democrats expected maybe, like, I guess for lack of a better word, just kind of a regression to the mean a little bit in this state, that maybe, flipping 2 Senate seats and the presidential level in this state was just kind of too good to be true all at once. So I think that's why you've had the Democrats really speak in very cautious terms about what may be happening here in this state. But by and large, I think that they're still very much in the driver's seat to carry this. And I have this now as a tilt Democrat still, just because I think it's going to be closer than people expect. And some of the polling in recent days has kind of confirmed that for us. So that's why I have the state of Arizona as a tilt for Joe Biden. All right, now in Iowa, this is another state that I think we have to pay very, very close attention to. We don't exactly know the state of this race here, okay? Teresa Greenfield and Joni Ernst are locked in an uber competitive Senate race here. It's so close that it's like, I mean, I've characterized, like, if I could characterize it as a toss-up, I would. Just because, but the only, I sort of like to give you a sense of where I actually think the race will go. It's sort of a cop-out to just not pick one. So that's kind of where this stands. On the presidential level, it definitely tilts just a slight bit to the right. But that's really only because of slight polling leads for Donald Trump. And again, we have so much information over the years to kind of prove that this is, more of a Republican state than a Democratic state. There are 2 Republican senators, as we know, and a Republican governor here. And up until 2018, there were more members in the House from the state of Iowa than Democrats. And of course, the state legislature is controlled by the Republicans. So that all, that's kind of a clean sweep until the Democrats were able to pick up some House districts here. They have 3 of the 4. They came close in the gubernatorial race. And on the presidential level, again, it's compelling, it's close, and they have reason to believe, if Joe Biden wins this state, I would definitely be a little surprised, but it wouldn't be a shock. Remember, he and Barack Obama won this state both in 2008 and 2012. Okay, so it wouldn't be that shocking. I mean, they've done it twice. Why can't they do it a third time? Of course, this time it would be with Kamala Harris, but even though there are very few black voters in this state, they voted for Barack Obama 2 different times, and obviously that wouldn't, sully their ability to vote for Kamala Harris as well. So I think right now I still have it as tilt Republican. Now, Texas, there was a really bizarre poll today that I probably shouldn't even be mentioning it because I just don't think it's worth it even mentioning to begin with. It's called Citizen Data is what it's called. It had Joe Biden leading here by 9%. That's ridiculous. Okay, under no circumstance is he going to take the state of Texas by 9%. It's still a very open question as to whether or not he's even going to take the state of Texas. We do know this. He's not going to lose it by 9%. Okay, if Joe Biden does lose the state of Texas, I expect him to lose by 4%, not 9%. As a result of that Citizens Data poll, he is just about again in a virtual tie with Donald Trump. It's about 0.4% is what Donald Trump leads in the polling averages there. So again, ask yourself this if you're a Trump supporter right now. In the state of Texas, you have a state that Donald Trump led on election day by 12%. He won it by 9%. Okay, that's a 3-point shift. So here he is up by less than 1%. Expect him to win? I don't know. Okay, and we saw what happened in 2018 when Beto O'Rourke came, pretty close to defeating Ted Cruz in 2018. And, he came within less than 3%. Okay, and in fact, I think it was less than 2%. Wasn't it 48.3% for Beto O'Rourke? So that's where this state, the state of this race is. The turnout in this election has been sky high. MJ Hager is running a respectable, I'll call it a close race against John Cornyn, but none of us expect her to win that race. So all that considered has me labeling Texas still as tilt Republican. Ohio is a little easier to understand because this one has been more consistent for the GOP. They've had better results here on the presidential level, obviously since 2012, another state that Obama-Biden won both times. A huge shift rightward when Donald Trump carried it by double digits in 2016. Since then, again, a narrowing up. Mike DeWine, a very popular Republican governor there, did win. It did narrow up, though, when he defeated Richard Cordray, the Democrat. Sherrod Brown, a Democratic senator from here, was also able to win re-election pretty comfortably as well in 2018. The Democrats had some success in the House here as well. But it's still a state that I think, kind of like Iowa, just has too much ground to make up for the Democrats. As we saw, 41%, 43%. That's just too big a margin to make up only in one cycle. And again, this area of the country, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, all these states, I know I've said it a million times over this election season on this channel, but it really rings true. This area of the country is trending away from the Democrats. Okay, in Florida, another state that just kind of has a mind of its own, right? We never really know what the state of play is in this race. We never exactly know what kind of turnout numbers we're going to get. And oftentimes, I think Republicans are kind of the ones that are a little understated in polling here. We don't always get voters in the Panhandle area, a very conservative area. Again, 2018 was so kind to the Republicans in those midterms. They had a field day here. Bill Nelson, incumbent Democratic senator, defeated by Rick Scott. Andrew Gillum, who led that governor's race for most of the election season, defeated by Ron DeSantis. So those two things pretty much solidified that this state has a little bit of a right of center tinge to it right now. Because not only is Rick Scott, that we saw Marco Rubio there, the state legislature is Republican. It went Republican in the 2016 election. 2018 was a Democratic wave year. And not only was it a wave year, but that was the same year or only a few months after the Parkland school shooting. So emotions were pretty hot, were pretty high that November, and the Republicans were still able to win despite having some disadvantages going against them. But again, Joe Biden is reputable here. He won this state 2 different times with Barack Obama. We never know exactly what the final state of affairs are going to be in this race. It's a hard state to poll. It's a hard state to get a true sense, okay, here's where we are, here's where we're not. Here are the amount of voters that could potentially sway from what we never exactly know. But what we know right now is that Joe Biden still has a small lead here. Pollsters in this state have worked over the course of the election season to correct themselves in this state, thus to me giving Joe Biden the edge here. All right, in Georgia, another state that I really think we just kind of have to start paying more attention to and just kind of acknowledging that the Democrats have the edge here. They do. I mean, it's been a little while that the Democrats had pretty much taken the lead here. There are 3 different races happening here. Okay, we know there's a presidential race, and then there are 2, both Senate seats are up here. And Jon Ossoff is within inches of David Perdue, which is, obviously very significant. And then Raphael Warnock is obviously just crushing it, miles and miles ahead of both Doug Collins and Kelly Loeffler in the runoff that'll probably take place in January, assuming none of the candidates receive 50% of the vote, which looks increasingly likely. Poll just today, 2 polls, public policy polling, +2. Now, a citizen data poll, that again, I know I just totally discredited them, and we are, entirely. That also has Biden by 4. But let's look at these other polls here. I mean, Biden +2, +4, +5, +2, +6. Look at that. I mean, and then +5, back on the 27th. On the 26th, +1, University of Georgia poll. It's YouGov, tie. So, I mean, it's kind of been that way for a few months, but we just kept saying the Republicans have earned the right to have the benefit of the doubt here. It's a tilt Democratic state right now. And, I mean, Donald Trump really can't even afford to be thinking about the state of Georgia right now. He knows he's going to lose, in all likelihood, at least 2 of the following states: Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, Texas, Florida. It'd be a miracle if he lost only 2 of those. And there are even a lot of mathematical scenarios, if it involves either Florida or Texas, in which that gets Biden all the way home with only 2 of those states. Okay, I think it's more likelihood he loses at least 5 of them, okay, as you're already seeing in this map. But right now, he basically can't even be thinking about Georgia. And the reality of the situation is those 16 votes belong to Joe Biden right now. Okay. And keep an eye on those Senate races, which we will break down more in our next, in our 5-day, Senate election prediction video. In North Carolina, another state that has just trended this way for the Democrats, Joe Biden continues to lead it. It's very similar to Georgia, only the leads are a little bit bigger. I think Biden is being boosted by the Senate race going on here between Cal Cunningham and Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis wasn't really able to take advantage of everything surrounding uh, um, Cal Cunningham's sexting scandal, and that, obviously is not for us to judge. Rather, it's for the voters, as we know. But at the same time, I mean, I think you can understand that Biden appears to be riding that wave a little bit. It's a tough state for Democrats to win in, but Biden does a lot of popularity in this part of the country. North Carolina, a high minority population state, and he's very popular here. And I don't really see any reason why he should think that he can't win in this state. Roy Cooper, a very popular incumbent Democrat, is cruising on his way to re-election, further boosting his chances. And so I think the stars have kind of aligned for Biden in this state. Another state I have tilt for him. Lastly, in Pennsylvania, both candidates have been fighting tooth and nail over this state. Very hard state to win. It's a tough state to campaign in. It's a pretty vast state with really only 2 urban areas. So it's, a little bit of a challenge strategically. Of course, Biden is a little more familiar with these surroundings as he is originally from Scranton. Let's look at the polls. Added today, Quinnipiac, +7. Big sample size too. Yesterday, +6, +6, +8, +5, +7, +7 again, +5, -2 in an insider advantage poll. Yuga, very reliable pollster, +7. Gravis Marketing, +7. Gravis Marketing, by the way, a traditionally right-leaning pollster. Okay, so there you go again. Another tilt for Joe Biden. So, I mean, that's the state of this race right now. Okay, and I think the reason Democrats are so worried is because of what we saw happen in 2016. Let me remind you again. The fact that Hillary Clinton lost, was it surprising? Mildly. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 4. Okay, but the polling was not incorrect. There was really one state where the polling was just dead wrong, and that was Wisconsin. Okay, and if you applied the same shift in the polling from 2016 to the lead that Biden has in this state, the state of Wisconsin now, he still carries it, and it's 10 electoral votes. Okay, this has the potential of being a landslide. Okay, it does. Look, Texas, Ohio, Iowa. Those are close states right now, and we already have labeled Georgia and North Carolina, 2 states that are basically essential to Trump's reelection, as tilt Democrat. And when I say essential, I literally mean he basically cannot lose the state of Georgia and have any opportunity to win. North Carolina, he can survive it, but it's definitely a bellwether. Florida, almost every mathematical path is cut off, and then the Rust Belt was what literally gave him the win, and Arizona, which is basically another Wisconsin. So 349 to 188, that's the state of affairs right now, with just 5 days left. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know this was a little bit shorter one than usual. Thought I'd give you all a break. Stay tuned for our next Senate election prediction video. Only 5 days left. Again, if you have any questions about what you need to do to make a plan to vote, you can always hit me up in the comment section below. As always, hit me up with comments, questions, suggestions, corrections, anything you may have, and I will be sure to answer those for you. So thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you in November.